This is Elliot Serrano and Jose Melendez coming to you from Dreamland Comics in Schaumburg, Illinois. Thank you for joining us here on CCW TV, the Comic Culture Warrior video channel. Had a nice little back and forth on Siege number 1. That was Siege number 2.
Oh, they really, really loved it for some reason.
I liked it. I did. I gotta say, I'm surprised that I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that more than I expected to.
Well, I enjoyed it more than I expected to, too, but it's too much.
He's not gonna like hearing this.
I fucking swear to God.
Ultimate X number 1 by Jeff Loeb, Art Adams, and Peter Steigerwald is a colorist. This is the relaunch of the Ultimate Universe X-Men books?
Well, not really, because, this really doesn't have anything to do with the X-Men. Kitty Pryde's in it, but Kitty Pryde's in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Ultimate Spider-Man. This has, been a bone of contention with a lot of folks who have read the Ultimate books.
Bone.
No. The bit where a lot of folks feel very, you kind of feel crapped on. You invested a lot in the Ultimate books, and the whole Ultimatum event kind of, left a really bad taste in everyone's mouth. So it's been incumbent upon the creators of the new line of Ultimate books to give people a fresh new experience to kind of, get them past all that. And the way I'm reading these new Ultimate books, I kind of feel like they're going to get to a point where they're going to forget Ultimatum ever happened. Like they're gonna battle for the cowl the whole thing. Kind of just like ignore it. It's like that thing that happened.
But you can't really ignore it when you kill half the people in the universe. That's
true, but at the same time, it kind of opens things up for new possibilities, which is, I guess, what they're trying to do here with Ultimate X in the mutant books, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this book has gotten some publicity around the internet. I know someone on CBR talked about how...
I have the quote.
You have it? What's the quote?
The quote from the CBR review, and I don't know if this is going to be a part of Last Rants, because I really would like to touch on this more, but we are falling behind, so we might save this for Last Rants. But CBR gave this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The quote that I wrote down personally from CBR that I would like to share with all of you is the reviewer said, "It's not the greatest single comic book ever, but it is a great comic book. This is the archetypical comic story that readers will one day point back to and say, that was the single greatest issue I ever read."
Wow. Single greatest issue I ever read.
So, it's not the single greatest issue, he says, but he thinks that people are going to say down in the future that it is the single greatest issue that they've ever read.
I see. Okay.
Which contradicts itself in 2 sentences. But, man.
I can see what you're saying. Well, I went into this book, so here's the thing. Everyone knows we're not big fans of Jeff Loeb around here right now. We named the Golden Loeb for him. The Golden Loeb is named for the thing in comics that is kind of crap. But the reason we named it the Golden Loeb is because we know Jeff Loeb is a better writer than he's been showing us. He has done way better stuff in the past than he's been doing currently. I actually think Ultimate X is better than a lot of stuff that he's been doing recently.
And
I gotta say, this, just like Siege number 2, this book was way better than I expected.
Okay, I am also going to agree with that to a point, but...
You don't have to agree with me.
I know I don't have to agree with you.
Okay.
I like disagreeing with you. Trust me, if I could disagree with you, I would do it in a second. Alright. This quote, though. This is the kind of bullshit that really fucking pisses me off, because... I'm wondering, first of all, they linked to a Jeff Loeb interview.
Right.
From this thing. So they're already, have their noses so far up fucking Loeb's ass that it's ridiculous. But then to go and say this, now, I read CBR reviews every week after I write my reviews or after we talk about certain things. I have noticed a trend on CBR that their Jeff Loeb reviews have been getting pretty bad. I mean, he's like his Hulk shit. They've been getting pretty bad reviews lately, and I think this is an attempt to make up for that. Now, I'm not saying this is
CBR is like the Fox News of comics. You know,
I think it is. Well, and this is why I think it is, because this is such a mediocre book. It's decent. All right, I shouldn't say mediocre. It's a decent book, but compared to Loeb's other stuff, it's fucking golden.
Okay.
There's nothing in here. All right. If you want to talk about it, go ahead.
Art Adams' artwork
but
in this
that's Art
is
Adams.
really good.
That's Art Adams.
And
this has nothing to do with Art Adams. This
I
book has nothing to
understand
do with
that.
Art Adams.
But then this reviewer, and I'm not going to, it's not to me to I want to go back to, I do want to pull out one thing about this review. They said this is the archetypal comic story that readers will one day point back to and say, this was the single greatest issue I ever read. But that's what this is. I mean, essentially, this is the origin of Wolverine Jr., whatever they're going to call this kid, okay, told as Superman.
Yeah,
okay?
there's nothing new in this book at all.
It's the archetype. And if you have, and back to what the Ultimate books are about. If you are a first-time comic book reader, you're a kid who you've gotten in, like you're at the same age that that we were at when we first started reading comic books, and you pick this up. Yeah, for us, it's kind of a retread. But again, those archetypes exist in comics, and Loeb is taking it, and I think he's doing kind of a decent job of using that archetype for this purpose. Now, if he's going to hammer the parallels between this kid and Superman over and over and over again, I'll take issue with that. But to set up this story, I got to say, was pretty cool. And again, this artwork by Art Adams is just incredible.
No, the Art Adams, it is incredible, and I will.
This is probably some of the best stuff I've seen him do in a while.
Well, he doesn't really do a lot.
But there you go. That's what I'm saying.
No, the artwork is phenomenal. I mean, it is excellent. It is way above average. It's probably some of the best artwork I've seen in a comic book in a long time. But the story is very generic. It's very boring to me. Like, I've seen all this shit before. Now, when you're talking about archetypical stories, and like when you go back, I'm going to reference this book with the book that I think. When I go back to saying this is the single greatest issue I've ever read, that's when I go back and I talk about Kraven's Last Hunt. That to me, if this is going to be their Kraven's Last Hunt, I feel really fucking bad for that kid.
But that's such a matter of opinion because
I know it is a matter of opinion. Obviously, it is a matter of opinion because this guy fucking loved the book. Obviously, all reviews are a matter of opinion. But there is nothing, to me, there is just nothing new in here at all.
I liked how, I mean, again, this is me, and I've always been a big fan of Alpha Flight and James and Heather Hudson. How Loeb was able to fold them into this story.
And this Ghost of Obi-Wan shit never gets
tired. I know, but that's a very common.
No, it's a lazy storytelling technique.
It's a trope. It's a trope. I understand. I know where you're coming from, but it's kind of like it's done, and it's a way of telling the story. Now, I will say this: this part was kind of like, to me, it was pushing it, where the kid suddenly goes, "Hey, you know what? Wolverine has claws. Maybe I had claws. I'll give you that. I'll give you that." But then the bit where he figures out how to turn his claws into metal, while they kind of explained it within the dialogue between Kitty and James Hudson Jr. here, it was a little much for me to accept. Outside of that, though, this was a pretty solid issue. And the thing that I liked about this, though, is because it's going back to Loeb. I'm hoping this is Loeb saying, you know what, let's get back into the characters now. What they're like. The thing, what really makes them tick. Getting away from the big slam, bang, punch you in the face, go for a joke kind of narrative that he's been doing for so long.
And that's why I think that this is one of the best books that Loeb's written in a long time. I might not care for the overall feeling of the book, but there was none of that bullshit that I hate about Loeb. There was no bad dialogue. There was no stupid one-liners.
Yeah.
There was no excessive violence at all.
Yeah.
All that stuff that he puts in every one of his books, for some reason he didn't put in here. Because
it's an Ultimate book that's meant for younger readers, and I think he's they gave him that box again that he needs to work in. And he's showing that he is capable of doing that. And again, I know, we've been giving him shit for a while for things, but I really do hope that this is a signal that Loeb is going to go back to the things that made us fans of his writing. I really do hope so. I was surprised. I got to say, I was really surprised, and I enjoyed it. I
must have gotten a job offer from Marvel this week.
Okay. Well, okay, then by all means, then why don't we just hate on Daredevil then while we're at it?
Okay.
Daredevil number 504. Continuing the saga of Daredevil as the leader of the Hand, and now taking over kind of as the ruler of sorts in Hell's Kitchen. The thing that's getting me right now is this is back to it being a really solid book, because Andy Diggle and Della Torre, his first name is Roberto Della Torre, are a very nice pairing on this. Roberto Della Torre's artwork is moody and dark and perfectly suited for this book. Diggle also has a very smart, gritty, earthy dialogue that sets a great tone for this. And I like how I remember the first time we reviewed the pairing of Diggle and Della Torre, we said Murdoch was going all emo, and he seems to have lightened up a little less emo and a little more proactive.
Yeah, and on the blog, I had when this book actually came out a couple weeks ago. But we do want to talk about this book because I want to bring people's attention if they're not reading this book. I'm not a fan of Daredevil, like I said in the last review. On the blog, I actually wrote that I'm going to be buying this book, but this is going to be the come to Jesus time for this book for me.
Right.
That I like it. I like the art. The story was okay, but it's not wowing me.
Right.
And I'm just trying to cut down on extraneous books that I just don't need.
Right.
And this was on the chopping block for me. It's only $2.99, but still,
right.
I buy too much shit right now. I read this book, and I have to say that I am now going to buy it because of this one issue, and it's because exactly what you said. Because Matt Murdock is finally doing something,
doing stuff, right?
And it's so sad that this story, this one issue, they've been building this thing where it's going to be the Hand versus Osborn, right? Now that would have been an awesome story to tell in Dark Reign.
In Dark Reign, exactly.
And that is one of the types of stories that you could tell in Dark Reign that would be really awesome, but they didn't.
Right.
They didn't bother. And now we have Dark Reign ending, and Diggle is finally dealing with that in here. And it's like, man, if they would have done this like this
6 months ago,
yeah, but this kind of stuff in a lot of the books, but to have the Hand versus Hammer, that's an awesome story. And this one issue just proves that it could have been really, really awesome.
Right. And it's really cool too to see again how Diggle is moving the chess pieces here and there. He's got Murdoch working on some sort of thing that's going to be beneath the streets of Hell's Kitchen, and it's just, again, he's setting up the scope. This might be, this might be a case where he can flip it, because when Dark Reign is over, it's not like Daredevil's going to just suddenly give up all his power and say, fine,
right.
So it could mean, now we're flipping it and it's going to give it a different paradigm, a different perspective, where Daredevil could kind of be the bad guy in his own book.
Yeah. Yeah, if when that is going to happen, I guarantee that's going to happen, because, but now it's getting to the point where it's just like this, they're setting up like this fight with Hammer. I wish they actually showed more of the fight.
Right, yeah.
But, when you see all these ninjas and Daredevil, just jumping at... Oh, man. The artwork is beautiful, and it's just set up so perfect. Like, everything in this book is just finally hitting that point for me where it's like, all right, now this is kind of where I wanted this Daredevil book to go.
Right.
And it's there, and I just hope it stays on here. And they're now alluding to that he's now going to go to Japan to do some business there, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be a pretty kick-ass story.
If Della Torre can keep going, because I know he only does so many issues. Or
this book is already running late, and it's got to be because of the art.
Yeah, but it is incredibly awesome artwork. It's
the fact
it's
that
lush and detailed.
That they're building a building which is essentially going to be a prison, because they have all of these Hammer people in cages right now.
Yeah, Daredevil is going to be building hell.
Yeah.
He's building his own hell beneath Hell's Kitchen. That's gonna be cool. That's
so,
gonna be really cool.
Yeah, I just want to throw this in there because this is a really good book, and yeah, it's a Marvel book, but it's the creators are making this book awesome. It has nothing to do with Marvel per se, but if you're looking for something new, you're looking for something really, really well done, Daredevil.
We'll close on that when we come back. We actually have a Vertigo and an indie book to look at. We hope to see you then.